Hello, good morning, or good evening, whenever you are watching this. I hope you are doing well. My name is Catherine, and today we are doing my March reading wrap-up. I did film this once already, and I absolutely hated all the footage that I got, so we are refilming. It's almost end of April, but you know what? It is what it is. It's fine. In the month of March, I read a total of 20 books with one DNF. I DNF'd again. It's a miracle. Yeah, it can happen. I can actually DNF books. Who'd have thought? Genre-wise, I read 6 YA fantasy, 5 new adult fantasy, 4 adult romances, 1 sci-fi, and 5 YA contemporaries. My average rating for the month is 3.8, so pretty good. I will say a lot of these books were rereads. About 8 of these books were books that I have read previously and was reading for whatever reason. And yes, I am just gonna have to put in pictures because I am too lazy to go find all the books in my bookshelves again. So here we go. Let's talk about the books that I read. I am gonna be going a little bit in genre order just because I'm trying to keep series and stuff together. So starting off with my 1 sci-fi, I read The Lesson by Cadwell Turnbull. I gave this book 3 stars. The Lesson is about this alien race who has come and occupied a small island in the Caribbean. So they've been living there for about 5 years, and there's a lot of unrest and what do these aliens want? There's definitely some metaphors in there for colonization. I did overall enjoy the book and the story. However, there were a lot of POVs and it just was kind of all over the place in terms of the writing style. I wasn't the biggest fan of the writing style. I thought that the concept and the actual story was pretty cool, but again, I like the writing style and also the overall I wasn't sure what exactly the message was that it was trying to project. It was okay, 3 stars. Going into my YA contemporaries, the first one that I read was I'm Not Dying With You Tonight by Kimberly Jones and Gilly Seagal. I gave this one, again, 3 stars. This book follows 2 girls who meet at a football game when there is a shooting and they are trying to basically find their way back home, or one of the girls is trying to make her way to her boyfriend who's not actually that great of a guy, also is kind of older than her. I definitely had some problems with the book. It had some good commentary just in terms of one girl is white, one girl is black, and just their overall relation with the world around them. However, these girls made the dumbest decisions throughout this book. Oh my gosh. For one of the girls who has lived in this area her entire life, she just made some stupid choices. The 2 of them were we're gonna go walk basically the entirety of the city by ourselves at night after a shooting. Why? It had a good message, but I didn't love the book. I didn't like the characters. They were just so, I don't know, teenagers, I guess. Don't remember being that stupid as a teenager. I would never. Next was K-Pop Confidential by Stephen Lee. I always question when there's the PH. Is it Stephen or is it Stephen? Anyway, I gave this book, again, 3 stars. This follows a Korean-American girl who auditions to become a K-pop idol. She ends up getting accepted and going to a K-pop, the K-pop training camp, and she goes through a lot. It kind of talks about a lot of the problems with the K-pop and also just in general the music industry, and it talks a lot about how much she's supposed to change herself, and also it talks a lot about the double standards between the female idols and the male idols. I thought it was a really interesting book, and it moved very quickly. I never really felt bored, but it also didn't blow me away. So 3 stars. Next, I read Grown by Tiffany D. Jackson. I gave this book 4.5 stars. This book also covers a lot of problems with the music industry, specifically just young girls getting groomed and being taken advantage of by older men. It follows Enchanted Jones, who at a singing competition meets Corey Fields, who is a famous, like, he's a huge star musician. It is a little bit of a dual timeline situation because there is a little bit of a murder mystery element to it. In our later timeline, Enchanted wakes up and Corey is dead. It follows those timelines of like, how did she end up in this situation, as well as like trying to figure out who killed Corey. Enchanted, of course, is like the main suspect. Grown was absolutely incredible, but extremely hard to get through. Not because of like the writing, although I did have a little bit of trouble with the writing style and the dual timelines, but specifically the content. I highly recommend, if you do want to pick up this book, to please look up trigger warnings, because there is a lot that happens in this book. It's good, it's important to like talk about, but also it's rough. The next 4 books that I read, I actually made a reading vlog because they were all arcs that I got off of NetGalley, so you can go ahead and check out that vlog right there. I go a lot more in detail about these 4 books and kind of like what I thought about each of them, so be sure to check that out. But very quickly, the first one is Trouble Girls by Julia Lynn Rubin. This unfortunately was the book that I DNF'd. These girls in a situation making some stupid decisions. It's pitched as like a Velma Louise situation where these 2 girls, they like are getting away for the weekend. They stop at this bar and one of the girls starts to get sexually assaulted by a guy and the other girl kills him. So now they are on the run. Sounds like a really, really cool concept. Unfortunately, the execution, not for me. It was just super repetitive, and again, the girls were just making dumb decisions. They had like $2,000 and were going on shopping sprees. Like, I feel like it could have been the type of book that gets better in the second half, but I just didn't want to push myself through it, honestly. The next book that I read was Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. I gave it 3 stars. I had a really great time. It was just a really fun book. This is another dual timeline situation where it follows a girl who went to like a beach house with her mom for the summer and ends up having a little bit of a summer fling with this girl. She then goes to school and she's like changed. She's a lot more like of a confident type person, and she gets noticed by this guy who has been like her longtime crush. However, the girl that she had a fling with in the summer has transferred to her school unbeknownst to her. So now she is like kind of dealing a lot with her like identity and figuring out like her sexuality, and also like she finally has this thing that she's always wanted, but she does have these feelings for this other girl. It's such a good, cute book. Actually, I want to say like 3.5 stars. Like I say 3 stars, but like I wouldn't quite give it 4 stars just because of the amount of angst that was happening. But like, it was fun. It involves Demi Lovato music. What more could you want? It is Grease with bisexuals and not as much of the like gross misogyny. Next, I read Next Stop Love by Rachel Stockbridge. This is a new adult romance, and it was a wild ride. To say the least. I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. In this one, we have 2 perspectives. We have Julian and Beatrice. So Julian has just moved back to the city, New York City. It takes place in New York and kind of just outside of New York. So he's just moved back after being kind of on the run, after getting in a not so great situation with a gang. And he is trying to find his way just back into the world. He has always dreamed of being an illustrator, but he doesn't see that as like a realistic goal for him. Then we have Beatrice, who is in her final year at NYU, and she feels like she has just always been pushed to go in a certain direction. She's dating this guy that she like never even really wanted to date, but she felt pressured to start dating him because he's seen as like the perfect guy. She's majoring in something that she doesn't really have any sort of passion for. The 2 of them meet by chance at a library when Julian is getting like chased by this guy with a knife. This book was wild. And they end up commuting together for 2 hours every single day on the train. It was an interesting time. Beatrice was very much like a not like other girls type character. Julian, I don't even know what was going on with him. It was a lot. It was just so like weirdly written. I don't know. Next, I read Mercurial by Naomi Hughes, which is a YA fantasy, and I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. 2.53 stars. I had a lot of hopes for this book, and it was like really good concept. I enjoyed the overall concept of the book. However, again, the execution just wasn't really there for me. It takes place in this world where there's certain people who have like metal in their veins, and the metal gives them certain powers. I thought it was a really cool magic system. However, it wasn't like fully fleshed out. It follows 3 characters. It really should have just followed 2, honestly. But it followed 3 characters, and the 2 like main characters is this guy who is the bodyguard for the other character who is known as the Defender. The Defender? Destroyer. That's what it is. And she's the sister to the Empress, and is kind of the Empress's like weapon, her main weapon to keep people in line, keep her people in line. So there's like some corrupt royalty, there's like a bodyguard and his like the person he's supposed to be guarding situation, which like is a great trope that I love. However, again, the execution of it wasn't great, and I think it was all down to the fact that it was a standalone. I feel like it should have been a duology because it just wasn't super fleshed out. The third perspective really wasn't necessary. It was like kind of just someone who was involved in the rebellion. But like really it was just there to add an outside perspective to like the romance that was happening. Things that should have taken more time were like cut down super quickly, and then there were other things that were dragged out for way too long. Again, just the pacing of it. The pacing wasn't great. Moving on into the romances. First, I read 2 Sarah MacLean books, the first being 11 Scandals to Start to Win a Duke's Heart. I gave this one 3 stars. It definitely wasn't my favorite of the Love by Numbers series by Sarah MacLean. I've read her 2 other books, which I just absolutely loved, those first 2 books in the series. This one follows Juliana, who is the like bastard daughter of I think he's a duke? No. He's what? No, oh my god, I'm totally mixing this up with another Sarah MacLean book that I just read. She is the bastard daughter of the like wife of this, not duke, but duke. Anyway, she's Italian. She comes back to England because she's like forced to come back to England, and she falls in love with this duke who is like very proper, and she is like known as like a scandal, and so it shouldn't work out, but of course they're drawn to each other. It's super cute. I didn't love the romance as much just because the guy was annoying. I did love Juliana, however I did listen to the audiobook of it, and like her Italian accent wasn't good. It sounded German at times. I don't know what was going on with that Italian accent, honestly. But I still really enjoyed the story. I then started on another Sarah MacLean series, the first one of which is Wicked and the Wallflower. I gave this one 4 stars. Super cute again. And I did realize, because I have been reading the rest of Sarah MacLean's books, that I read the series out of order. I didn't realize that all of her books kind of take place in the same universe. And so it's not necessary to read all of her books in order. However, there are references back to previous books, something I didn't realize. So if you want to read any Sarah MacLean books, I suggest reading them in publication order. That being said, I read Wicked and the Wallflower, which is the first of the Bare Knuckle Bastards series. It was very good. I'll talk about the rest of the Bare Knuckle Bastards series at the end of my April wrap-up, but wow, love it. So this particular book follows Felicity Faircloth, that's what it is. Felicity Faircloth, who has found herself kind of cast out of society because of some bad situations, and she's decided she's determined to marry this season, but she wants to find her way back into society, and she also wants to find passion. In enters the first of the bare-knuckle bastards, King of Covent Garden, Devil. Yes, that is his name. Oh, I love Devil. So in enters Devil. He is going to help her become this like temptress, but also is going to be kind of using her to seek revenge on his like long sworn enemy. It was very good. Loved the romance in this, and like I could have had some problems with just like the fact that Devil was using her. However, like it never really felt that way. I just think it was handled really well, and I loved it. Last of adult romances, I read The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was a very cute, fun romance. This follows Drew and Alexa, who get stuck in an elevator by chance. They end up kind of hitting it off, and Alexa agrees to be Drew's wedding date to his ex-girlfriend's wedding, where he is like, I don't think he's the best man, but he's like a groomsman at least. And they end up just having a lot of chemistry, and they set up this like friends with benefits situation, despite the fact that he lives in LA and she lives in like Oakland, and so they're like flying back and forth to see each other every weekend. Overall, I really enjoyed just the romance of it. I thought it was very cute. However, my biggest problem of it is, of course, used in a lot of romances I've noticed, and that's just the miscommunication trope. Definitely is used in this one, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was okay, but like just didn't love the whole miscommunication portion of it, hence 3.5 stars. Next, into the fantasies that I read. I first read The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was good. It's a King Arthur retelling from the perspective of Guinevere, and Guinevere is actually the daughter of Merlin, who is sent to protect Arthur because there's a threat that not the Lady of the Lake, the Dark Queen person. Anyway, there's a threat on King Arthur. Guinevere is sent to protect him, so there's like an arranged marriage, fake marriage type deal. There are like feelings, of course, that happen. There is a little bit of a love triangle because she actually has a little bit of chemistry with King Arthur's nephew, who's like the same age as them, Mordred. Yeah, so that's a whole thing. And then, of course, there is Lancelot, who in the story is a woman. So that brings me to my biggest problem with this book, and that is that it should have been gayer. This was the first book in the series. I am going to be reading the rest of the books. I'm just really hoping for a little bit of like a queer romance, although like I don't need a love quadrangle since there's already something going on between her and Mordred and Arthur. I don't know if I really want to have Lancelot thrown in the mix, but like the thing with her and Mordred is like completely made up for this story, and I feel like that is a bit of a cop-out for making it gay. If you're gonna make Lancelot a woman, you just gotta commit and make it queer. We are coming in on the home stretch, guys. Don't worry, we're almost done. Next, I read A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and last but definitely not least, A Court of Silver Flames. So, if you somehow have not heard of the ACOTAR books, you must be new to BookTube. Welcome. So we start off with A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is a loose Beauty and the Beast retelling. These are new adult fantasy romances, so like it definitely relies heavily on the romance portion of it. Yes, there are fairies involved. Yes, there are wings involved. It's a great time. It follows a girl named Feyre, who is the youngest daughter of this like poor family, and she accidentally shoots a wolf who turned out to be a fae, and she gets taken into the land of the fae as punishment to live in the spring court with this guy. His name is Tamlin. The spring court is like under this spell this curse, you could say. As much as people make fun of these books, I always have a good time reading them. These were all rereads for me, except for Silver Flames, which is the newest edition of the book. I can't really go into the other ones without completely spoiling the rest of the books. I will say the first one I gave 4 stars. Akamath I gave 5 stars. Akawar I gave 4 stars. I actually like this one way more the second time reading it than the first time, which a lot of people have been saying, and I definitely found that to be true. A Court of Frost and Starlight I gave 4 stars. People have problems with it. I don't. It's a novella. It's not really supposed to be like big plot or anything. It's just supposed to be like a cute story to like add in between the other books. That's the point of novellas. I think people are putting too much pressure on novellas. And finally, A Court of Silver Flames. Did I give this one 5 stars? So I gave A Court of Silver Flames 5 stars, latest installment. I loved it. I know people have problems with it. I really loved the book. I loved what it did with the characters that we know and love. It's a good time. I'm excited for the next ones. I have a lot of theories about what is going to happen in the next one, or the next 2 actually. Finally, last but most definitely not least, as part of our Grishaverse read-along, our final books for the Grishaverse read-along, so sad that they're done. I read Six of Crows, Crooked Kingdom, King of Scars, and Rule of Wolves. So starting off with Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, they take place after the Shadow and Bone trilogy, so the Grisha trilogy. They follow these 6 characters who go on a seemingly impossible heist, band of misfits thrown together, chaos, just absolute chaos. And I love it. It is a very character-driven book. If you are in for the plot, I'm sorry. That is not what these books are for. They are for the characters, and that's kind of it, and I love them. I give Six of Crows 5 stars. I give Crooked Kingdom like 4.5 to 5 stars, just because the first half of Crooked Kingdom does start off very slow, but I love the way that it ends. This was my 4th time reading these books, so like I'm definitely invested in them. I love them so much. It definitely won't be the last time I read them. In fact, I almost started rereading them again because I have a problem. And then for King of Scars and Rule of Wolves, I can't really go too far into the description of those 2 because they do spoil the Grisha trilogy. You have to have read the Grisha trilogy and the Six of Crows duology in order to have read King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. I do have an entire reading vlog of Rule of Wolves right there. I will say King of Scars, least favorite book in the entire Grishaverse. It's all build up for Rule of Wolves, but I did love Rule of Wolves. I gave it 4.5 stars, I think. I think I ended up landing on 4 stars as I thought about it, but in the end, I loved it, and I love the characters that are involved with it, and I really hope that Leigh Bardugo writes more books in this universe, but I know if she does, she's probably gonna hurt me, so maybe I don't want her to. I don't know. I go back and forth daily. So there we go. That is my March reading wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. If you've read any of these books, let me know what you thought down below. As always, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to hit subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and until next time, bye!